Now let's go to that issue that's been on the front burner. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has signed into law the 2024 appropriation bill at the presidential villa right here in Abuja. Tinubu signed the 28.7 trillion budget document earlier approved by the National Assembly hours after he arrived in Abuja from Lagos, where he spent the past week holidaying. While the budget is 1.2 trillion naira higher than the budget proposed to a joint session of the National Assembly on November 29, 2023.
Patriots, it gives me immense joy to welcome each and every one of you, young and old, to this brand new year 2024. We must lift up our hand to Almighty God in gratitude for His grace and benevolence to our country and our lives in the year 2023 that has just gone by. Though the past year was very challenging one, it was eventful in so many ways.
Budget is a budget of renewed hope. It's anchored on reducing the deficit and increasing capital expenditure, particularly in our priority areas. The approved 2024 budget that we just approved now achieve both objectives. It contains a very good increase in the capital side, a reduction in recurrent expenditure, and it brought down the deficit from 6.11% to 3.88%.
Well, let's cross live to Lagos, where public affairs analyst and the former president of the Nigerian-German business group, AFAO Germany, Femi-Dagunro. Thank you so much for joining us on Prime Time tonight, and Happy New Year to you, Femi-Dagunro.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, good to see you.
Happy New Year, Ngozi.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
Great. I mean, look, so much has been said about the budget, the numbers, let's just say 28 trillion. An addition from 1.2 trillion, 1.2 trillion more than what President Tinubu actually proposed in the financial plan for the year. But the fundamental question, how does this budget, how do you think it will impact on the lives of the ordinary Nigerian? I mean, the woman who sells at Mile 12 Market, the spare parts dealer in Onitsha, the farmer in Borno or Karanamoda or in Benue, how will this numbers, how will this budget, how will this plan affect the ordinary Nigerian?
Well, that's a great question, Ngozi. I quite appreciate that. The fun is this. Even if we do a lot of analyses and criticisms and whatever we bring up, it will never change anything. Because the law allows the National Assembly to raise the budget or decrease it, which they have decided to now increase. In a way, when people see or hear about budget, most Nigerians, they don't just really care about these things, only the elites, the educated. And now, you've just asked a great question about how will it impact the people. The people just want to know, what will this budget do for me and for my children? Am I going to get the price of a bag of rice reduced? Am I going to get the school fees paid? Am I going to? These are the questions. And I think the president has mentioned a couple of things. Each time is talking to Nigerians about this renewed hope. The people, they've renewed their hope right from the day they gave him the mandate. And they've given him a kind of honeymoon to be able to do all these things. But with signs of things going on, I don't think think a lot of people are comfortable with what is going on right now. You know, the uproar, the noise made about the bulletproof SUVs, nothing changed. And now, you know, in one part of the budget, they're going to buy a building for one agricultural agency, a newly formed agricultural agency, for billions. And in it, you know, if you are buying a new building, you are doing renovation of the building again, or you are doing maintenance of the building. A lot of things are very curious to some of us who are looking and reading it. But then, that notwithstanding, we have to be optimistic, even when we are cautiously optimistic. This is Nigeria. We have a lot to grow the market. We have a lot to grow our country. But you see, I think this budget should be a performance-based budget. And the area that I looked when he said, look, if you don't perform, you go. Now, people have to sit down, all the ministries, all the MDAs, whatever, wherever you are, you won't just be getting money and be wasting it. And that is why when you look at when this budget was being put before the Senate, I quite enjoy what Senator Adams or Sherman did. He was raising a lot of questions. Look at NIPC, who wants to open an office in Geneva with millions and billions. You see, so when you look at some of these things, you don't just want to say anything because you will have expected a lot of issues to be raised, and then we have to know where these senators raise issues, were they, you know, taken care of? Is there anything that was done on these issues raised so that it will put the ministers or the DGs to put them on their toes to say, no, we can't waste this money. So, but now you are seeing areas whereby you are cutting costs and at the same time you are wasting funds. I mean, it's a good thing to know that the government is no longer going to be funding all these associations of these, associations of that. I wonder why they have been funding it before. But it's a good thing they cut it off and said, look, they even gave them notice enough to say you are not going to cut it off. Now, if made in Nigerian rice is not going to be competitive enough for people to be able to afford it. People who bought RAM some few days for New Year, RAM cost about 150,000. I mean, then you have to see a lot of them. People are growing in pain, in suffering. And I wonder for how long will it take these people to continue to grow in, look, renew hope in budget, renew hope in school fees, renew hope in loans, renew hope everywhere. The hope has been renewed. The day they gave the president the mandate to go and become the president of Nigeria, the hope has been renewed. Now we have to put performance into the whole thing, transparency into the whole budget. If there's performance, if people can begin to see, look at that young man, Ojo, Jimmy Ojo, Abi, yes, that guy from Ministry of Interiors. Look at, right from day one, he was focused, and he's still focused on what he's doing. Passport now is easier to obtain, and he maintains that speed, the accuracy, and
right.
It's going on there.
Great. Let me come in very quickly. I mean, you've made some, you know, very important points. Let's come to the issue of budget performance. Over the years, Nigeria's, you know, budgets have not exactly delivered on the promise. Most of the time, barely 50%. Though many times you hear from the government that, look, this last budget performed 70%, 80%. They actually give themselves an excellent, I mean. But let's talk about budget performance, because it's one thing to come up with the figures. It's another thing to actually say, yes, 100 million, for example, was earmarked for so project. How much was released at the end of the day? Let's, you know, look at it from that angle in terms of in terms of deliverables.
You see, if you look at it, you say you are feeding school children, for instance. I don't know whether it's the entire nation or it's for a specific region or for specific areas in Nigeria. I can tell you, I've been trying to find out if the children in my local government, if the children in my ward are being fed regularly. I'm not sure. So if you say you are giving loans to the vulnerable ones, the local markets, women, 10,000, 5,000 naira, and you say they should go online and complete the form. Most of these people cannot complete the form online. That's number one. And then number two, are they really, where are you giving this money? If we want to set up this project, are we having the fundamentals? Have we set up the basis for all these things to work? It is not compulsory we start at a go and say the whole 36 states. Let's start it from a point whereby we execute it and we do it well and move to the next point. So now, if you said you are going to give maybe 5,000, 10,000 naira, and the people don't get it, so you will be offending more people, and they will be querying it, what is this all about? So I believe we have to re-strategize. I mean, the government has to re-strategize on some of these policies, just not making it too global to say, oh, then at the end of the day, like you said it worked so well, 80%. What is the matrix? What's the basis? Who are the people? From where, how many local governments? I think these are the things we have to begin to look at. And if you say every month, it's a good thing the president said, every month he wants to see a performance report. Fantastic. And if you can't work with this kind of style, you better prepare to go. Good idea. That's a good idea. But how will we read? Who is going to work on this performance report on every month to bring it out? Is it going to be a closed-door thing, or is this something that the whole country will be informed of how these MDAs and the ministries are performing? We don't need most of the time for them to be taken to court by all these other NGOs before we get information. And these are the things we have to begin to look at. We have to be transparent. If the government, if the president himself made himself, and which is a very good thing he has done as the chief marketing officer, promoting Nigeria in all these countries he has visited. The people, like he said, we all have to come to a point and start promoting. But is the avenue there? Can we defend what the president is saying? Yes, and that's why I mentioned Jojo in this Ebumi Ojo, forget me, I tried to mix up the name. The way he's doing it is transparent. You can see it. And you can feel it. Look, in Lagos here, because most of the times we base all these things, at the national level. Nobody is monitoring, nobody is talking about the state budgets. It shouldn't be only the federal budgets we should be talking about. We should be talking about the state budgets as well. We should be talking about the local government budgets. Do we even know how those ones budgeted anything? Are they making any issue about that? Nobody knows. So this issue of budget performance should not be based on only the national level. It should be at the state, it should be at the local government, because they all make money, they all take revenues, they all take taxes. When people pay taxes and they can't understand what's going on. Fantastic.
I mean, you make a very good point there. Budgeting at the subnational levels, how do you even ensure that they get it right at that level? And with the governance structure, how much really can you expect from the states to drive the economy in the right direction? And then while you talk about that, also think about the cost of governance. How do we ensure that we cut the cost of governance?
You see, the cost of governance has never been made transparent. You hear one senator say, this is how much we earn. You hear other people say, no, it is not true. This is just an allowance. These are the transparency we have to bring into the whole game. Just like the game of football, when it was not a little bit okay, they said, okay, let's bring in an artificial intelligence tool to monitor so that if the referee is confused, he can quickly go back and find out and see what is going on. So we have to have such a mechanism that if a ministry is not performing, you can't stop paying them, but there must be a mechanism to measure this performance. And then who are the people to measure the performance? Look at what happened with the central bank. It took years that, central bank and the former governor messed up a lot of things. Then now we have just brought an investigator who has come and said, look, these are the things that has gone wrong.
Very quickly, what will a performing budget look like? What are the indicators? At the end of 2024, what will we be looking at to say in this budget actually performed? In practical terms.
Yeah, you want to look at if you have all this, yes, if you have this agriculture, we have to have a reduced cost of rice, beans. Agriculture should be the number one. People should have food to feed themselves. Then if the cost of all this foodstuff goes down, then people will know that the budget has performed. The money you have spent on giving loans and all those things is working, or the money is performing. That's number one. If you look at the transportation, if our transportation system becomes improved, people will understand it, that you have spent money to do that. The roads, it's quite easy to see the performance. If the roads are well tarred, the roads are good, people will see it. They will know. The aviation, if they see the airports are being well managed, people will see all this, and we will all see it. So the performance itself is not just a theoretical thing that somebody will tell us with large paper and start showing us videos. No, people want to see this. In Lagos, you see that they said this red rail, blue rail, we walk. You see the things working, and you know that yes, it's working. It's another thing when somebody is telling, look, how much has it cost us to do this? Is it inflated or no? It's another thing. Then we can look at that. But let us know it's costing us X amount of money to do this, and we are seeing the performance. The rails are there, and it's working. Those are the things that is very easy for people to understand, and they see it. There's no other logic than to say, look, let the people see the performance. That's why I mentioned that young man at Ministry of Interior. We can see the performance of what he's doing. It's easy.
And that's not too much to ask. Fix the roads, let the health sector work, electricity, and all whatnot. Femi-Dagunro is a development economist. Thank you so much for joining us on Prime Time.